The two words that many of us are familiar with in households across New England, actually four words. What does that? Yeah. And that's usually uttered by one's mother. What does Harvey say? Right? Every mother wants to know what Harvey's thinking about the storms and so forth. There's no better example of professionalism in broadcasting and meteorology, but he's also with a great team at Channel 5. So here to show you a little video of the man, and then someone from the Channel 5 weather team is going to come up here and introduce him. Please watch Harvey Leonard.
So here's what to expect.
He's the most recognizable name in Boston weather.
Now here's the track of the storm.
Days before the blizzard of '78, he called the shot.
Those of you who think we're going to miss it, forget that idea and throw it right in the garbage.
For more than 40 years, New Englanders have placed their trust in Harvey Leonard.
This will become the boss.
But in a science that records every degree, every inch, the true measure of Harvey's impact is seen in meteorologists across the country. People who learned from Harvey Leonard.
Just to be able to land that internship in the first place, I had no idea how big of an impact it would ultimately have.
It was his advice about the broadcasting industry that really helped me.
There was never this feeling that I was less than, and it was that belief that gave me so much.
He's the kind of guy who could tell you that it's going to snow the 4th of July, and you'll believe him.
I've always said Boston sports has Orr, Bird, Williams, and Brady. Boston weather has Harvey Leonard. He's no doubt a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, that says a lot, indeed. That says a lot, but not everything. Here to present to Harvey is Cindy Fitzgibbons, one of the great meteorologists at Channel 5.
I have to introduce Harvey Leonard in 2 minutes. It's impossible. First of all, it is such an honor to be in this room and look around. It's not intimidating at all, I swear. I'm actually here to introduce the man that we all know, but is honestly one of my most favorite people on the entire planet. He's the man so beloved by the Boston meteorological community that you really need to only mention him by first name, right? Harvey. Harvey's been a fixture on Boston television for more than 40 years, and he looks the same. I would argue his passion for weather and forecasting shines just as brightly now as it did back in 1974. At his first television job as chief meteorologist at WPRI in Providence. It is his genuine love of weather, or what he refers to as a lifelong obsession, that has driven his iconic career. Among his many accolades, Harvey has been honored with the prestigious Governor's Award for Lifetime Achievement. He's a fellow of the American Meteorological Society, and he's been honored by NYU, where he earned his master's, for his accomplishments in meteorology. Clearly, Harvey is an exceptional meteorologist and scientist. But the words of another exceptional scientist could not ring truer. Albert Einstein said, "Most people say it is intellect which makes a great scientist. They are wrong. It is character." Harvey Leonard is a man of great character. I got my first taste of that in the late 90s, working as an inexperienced meteorologist at WPTZ up in Plattsburgh, New York. Harvey happened to be in Vermont and caught one of my weathercasts. He called the station to tell me he thought I did a good job. Who does that? Harvey Leonard does that. Harvey has been and continues to be a mentor, as you saw, to dozens of meteorologists that work in markets right now on televisions across the country. And he's nicknamed the Dean of Boston Weather because he loves to share his knowledge. He's been a teacher to so many people, teaching them not just about weather and about forecasting, but also the broadcast industry and what it means, really, to be a good human. Harvey's an advisor, he is a role model, and he is a friend. He is so giving of his professional time while being a husband to Lorraine, a father to his two daughters. Sherry is here, Lorraine is here. Tracy, his other daughter, is here in spirit because he's also very soon, any moment now, he keeps checking his phone, going to be the grandfather of 5. Yes. And really, his longevity in broadcasting is in part a product, I believe, of his generous character. His integrity is visible through the darkest storm. With Harvey, it is always about the weather. So, his weather team here at WCVB, AJ Burnett, Kellyanne Chicalese, Mike Wonkum, and myself, all here today, we came up with 5. I said, okay, 5 words that best describe what it is like having Harvey as a colleague. We had to narrow the list down, but these are the 5. Authentic, that's Harvey. Considerate, that's Harvey. Meticulous, that's Harvey. Supportive, of course. And a fanatic. Now, not just about the weather, we all know that, but also about sports. Red Sox, Patriots, and tennis. Especially tennis. So please welcome the man who forecasts them all, but truly lives for 2 seasons, winter and tennis. The one and only Harvey Leonard.
Well, that's a very difficult introduction to follow. I can tell you that. I can't thank Cindy enough. And by the way, of course, Cindy is so prominent as a meteorologist in her own right in Boston. Is she a fantastic person as well as a meteorologist, or what? The only thing I can say, since Cindy remarked very generously that I haven't changed very much in my looks, is that you definitely need a pair of glasses or contact lenses, doesn't matter which, but definitely one of the two. Anyway, I want to thank you very much. I'm very honored, very humbled to be inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Thanks, Cindy, for your beautiful words. Thanks to some of my former interns who are very prominent meteorologists around the country, of course, in their own right now. And I first want to congratulate all of my fellow inductees. I don't know everybody, but I certainly know some. And I had the pleasure to work with Victoria Block, as you saw, an incredible reporter and person. Sarah Edwards, so talented and such a warm human being, as you could see. Listo Fisher, the man with the golden pipes. And it's true, although we did not know it at the time, we grew up 1 mile away from each other in the Bronx, Listo around Eastchester Road, and I was about a mile away from there. Incredible. And of course, you're soon going to have Karen Holmes Ward presented, and of course, she's going to speak as well. And I cannot think of a person who has done more for our communities than Karen Holmes Ward. Truly amazing. Yep. And I did not know Lana Jones personally, but I sure admired her work, and like all of us, was very saddened by her tragic passing. So let me just tell you briefly about myself, that geographically, my life has been pretty simple. Born and raised in the Bronx, as Cindy noted, loving storms, especially winter storms, and sports. I went to college in New York. I started working in New York, then Providence, and then Boston. So all I had to do was get on I-95 and head north a couple of times, and that's it. Case closed. Pretty simple. Well, not quite that simple. I started kindergarten when I was 4. I started college when I was 16, skipping the 8th grade. I was simply too young, and it was not good, and it was very difficult socially. I wasn't even ready for college. The first year I was an engineering major. The second year I was a math major because math was always my favorite subject. I was really floundering around after 2 years. And then I realized there was a meteorology program, and everything changed. My motivation, my grades, even my social life. Now, there were only 11 students in my meteorology class, 3 Harveys. It's true. Anyway, after graduating, and that was with a bachelor and a master's at NYU, I started working in White Plains, New York at the airport, Westchester County Airport, for a private weather service. And most of our job had to do with briefing weather pilots, but also we were doing some reports for local radio stations. And that was very important because that's where I learned how to ad lib. And without that, I never would have gotten a chance at all in television. And Todd Glickman, who's a meteorologist, and he's here, and he's a great meteorologist, and he's been a radio meteorologist for many years. And Todd really let me know, and he's right. Doing radio first was a tremendous help, I think, in the communication of weather. Because after all, you have to paint the picture without pictures when you're on radio. And I think it was Todd who said, a good TV meteorologist, you should be able to close your eyes without even seeing the graphics and still get a complete weather forecast. I think there was a time where maybe I did that. I'm not so sure now because the graphics are like out of control. But in any event, that was the truth. So it helped me get my first TV job without any TV experience, which I don't think is possible in today's day and age. But that was in 1974 and in Providence. And I'd say from that moment on, I have many, many people to thank. I was really nervous about TV. I mean, way more than average. And a reporter at the station, Murray Feldman, instantly befriended me, and it made a tremendous difference. And here, after more than 40 years later, we are still close friends. So are our wives. Our kids know each other. We've attended every occasion from each other's family, and it all started there. And he just sensed that I needed a friend and I needed help. And then 2 of the anchors I worked with, Walter Cryan and Doug White, they took me under their wing, and they taught me so much about the business. I am so grateful to the 3 of them right off the bat. When I was lucky enough to make it to Boston, it was like a dream come true. I couldn't believe I was going to be on TV in the same market as Don Kent and Bob Copeland. Both set such high professional standards for weathercasting that allowed younger professionals to follow in their footsteps. Plus, Boston is such a great market for weather. Every kind of weather has, does, and will pass through the area. So once I was in Boston, I was at Channel 7, and John Henning, who was anchoring at the time, and a tremendous news person, we called him the Prince, and he really helped me during my challenging days. He had a sense when I was having a rough day. And he was a big guy, 6'5", and he'd put his arm around me, and he'd say, Harv, just skate your lane. We'll get you the puck. Just one of many great lines that John had. But it was great. It was calming, and it really helped. So my first 15 years in Boston, at Channel 7, we were the number 3 station, and most of the time a 3-station market. So there was tons of turnover. And I had to go up against Dick Albert and Bruce Schwaler, both very talented meteorologists, incredibly popular personalities in the market. So you might say I wasn't feeling too secure about my position. Now, the blizzard of '78 helped, and I tried my best to make my mark with the winter storms, which I thought maybe I had a little bit of an edge. In any event, though there were many good times and good people in my 25 years at Channel 7, and I have to put Mish Michaels right near at the top of that great list, in some ways, it was like, at times, a question of being able to survive. In fact, I gave a talk at a broadcast meteorology conference, I think in the year 2000, that was entitled, How to Survive 18 Different News Directors with a Steadily Receding Hairline. And that's the truth. And by the way, time I finished at Channel 5, I had worked, Channel 7, not done yet at Channel 5. I had worked for 20 different news directors at Channel 7. However, if being at Channel 7 at times was a matter of trying to survive, my 16 plus years so far at Channel 5, that's been a matter of being able to thrive. And I have many people to thank. First, Paul LaCamera, the general manager at the time, who brought me over to Channel 5. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Bill Fine, for keeping me there. And I got to team up with Dick Albert, who I miss every day, a great meteorologist, person, and friend. And I have to just say a word about the atmosphere in the Channel 5 studio. It is not like being on television. It's like you're hanging out with your buddies, carrying on a conversation. The fact that we're allowed to be ourselves gives us the freedom to be who we really are. And I do thank Channel 5 for setting that atmosphere. And I also thank Bruce Goldman, our floor director, who keeps us so loosey-goosey. And he's right there. And I do want to mention that I get a chance to work with an incredibly talented anchor team. In fact, 2 incredibly talented anchor teams. You know, last Thursday with the gas fires, I watched Ed Harding and Maria Stefanos do like 8 straight hours, all ad lib, seamlessly. Unbelievable. That's how talented they are. The other anchor team I work with, Ben Cimino and Emily Reamer, who are also here today, as is Ed and Maria. Well, Ben is just a terrific pro and a great guy. And Emily is so bright, and she is literally like the girl next door. So these are the 2 news anchor teams I work with. Then I get to work with Mike Lynch, Mr. Boston Sports. So how lucky am I? And if that's not enough, think of the weather team I worked with. Cindy Fitzgibbon, who is just, as you saw, is just unbelievable. And what you see on the air is what you get in person. She is that good a meteorologist, communicator, and human being. That's Cindy. I also get to work with Mike Wonkum, who is like an Emmy award-winning machine. How many of you got? You got the calculator out, Mike? I get to work with AJ Burnett. He's just back from North Carolina, where he covered the storm, not only for us, but for our entire chain of stations. And AJ can do it all. He's versatile, from reporting weather, from doing weather on television, the graphics, incredibly creative. It's like, with Mike and AJ, it's like having engineers as well as meteorologists on staff. And then we have Kellyanne Chicalese, and she is here as well today, and she is just as nice and kind a person as you can have, and a very bright meteorologist. So you see how I'm still blessed in many, many ways. I also want to thank Ken Fishkin, who has represented me so well over the years. And finally, and most importantly, I want to thank my family, my wife, Lorraine, of many years. We won't say the number. And she's allowed me to fulfill my professional dreams, even when I become obsessive, like during winter storms. Our daughter, Sherry, who is here today, her husband, Brian, and their 2 kids, our grandkids, Lily and Josh. And our daughter, Tracy, who lives in Manhattan with her husband, Steve, their kids, our other grandkids, Henry and Mia. And yes, Tracy is expecting her 3rd child any day now. So a special thanks to her for making sure she did not go into labor before this awards luncheon. Except, wait a second. Dad, I think I'm in labor. Come immediately. No, it didn't say that, but it will very soon, I can guarantee you. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.